Okay, I'm not sure how that went, but that's the new intro. Nick Koo made it. I think he's actually the one watching. That's probably why.
Good
Nick,
job,
tell us how
Nick.
that worked.
Anyway, this is Trend Settings, episode 63. The sounds coming out of that, it doesn't matter.
Alright.
Really.
Love
But we are this is group settings, we are trend settings. I'm gonna go fix the volume on that. Chris, you have a topic. Let's just go straight into it. I'm Ali.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jazzy Jules.
I'm Jono.
How good. Welcome, everybody. Well, look, we're going to start on a bit of a somber note. Let's take it back a bit. Thursday. This all started on last Thursday, 7 days ago. And it's only developed since then. It's been like a exponential graph.
Developed
It's
is
just
an
going up.
understatement.
So on Thursday, right, the New York Times published an article.
The failing New York Times. Sorry.
Are they failing?
Oh no, that's what the president keeps saying.
Oh, right. That'll be alright.
The fake news.
But this was not fake news. The title of the article was Harvey Weinstein paid off sexual harassment accusers for decades.
Decades.
And it was a very in-depth investigation and very long and involved article about this guy Harvey Weinstein and his sordid past and his horrific treatment of women over the last 25 years.
Who's Harvey Weinstein?
Harvey and Bob Weinstein, Bob's his brother, they founded this company called the Weinstein Company and another little company called Miramax.
Whoa. They found a Miramax?
Yes.
Wow.
Which is a
You probably don't know his name, but it
film
definitely
studio.
rings a few bells because it's in so many credit sequences that you just
Yeah.
don't think about.
So, and he's also a Hollywood producer, but mostly has a studio executive. So he runs and owns these companies with his brother and a board of directors, etc. But basically, he's very famous and he's a super, super big shot in Hollywood because, like, through the 80s and 90s, him and his brother and their company, they kind of reinvented the way independent films were, like, developed and distributed.
Yeah.
So they're really titans in Hollywood and like a big deal. And
Yeah,
everyone
I'm
knows
looking
them.
at IMDb. He's got like 10 movies a year. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot. And like I was reading another article at the Oscars, like everybody thanks him in their speeches. Like people thank God just as much as they thank him.
Wow.
And they've
That's dark.
I think it said only
Big call, big
only Spielberg was thanked more. That's what the article said.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, so this article that was published concerning him was about sexual harassment cases that have come up. And so the article outlined numerous, not one or two, but many, many occasions of harassment and misconduct from the 90s to 2015. Involving, and it's exploded since the article came out. Harvey put out a statement, is what it's called, but since then, so many people have come out of the woodwork, and it's been a massive, massive uprising, like in Hollywood, in everywhere. So,
It's like the world threw him under the bus.
yeah, where he belongs.
Yeah, that kind of implies that he didn't do it.
Does it?
Yeah, the saying's usually for someone who doesn't deserve to be.
Thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's like he ran at the bus.
He threw it under the bus that he slashed the tires to.
He
He should have been under a bus,
he was already under the
but he
bus.
hasn't been for far too long.
Right.
Flawed metaphor. Anyway, so these people that are coming out of the woodwork, there's employees, assistants, actresses, models, just people he comes in contact with. They've spoken out in this investigation by the New York Times about him harassing him. Basically, they all have, well, not all, but there's a similar thread, a similar story running through a lot of their recounts of the happenings.
The potted plant?
I don't know about the potted plant.
Oh, okay. I'll let you go first.
Okay.
And then I'll...
So the general MO, there's so many stories we could go through of these poor women who have been like abused and harassed by this like guy who's just basically just essentially abusing all the power that has been afforded him. So I don't know. I guess his general MO is he arranges this what is supposed to be a business meeting or an industry. Like, you got to meet with people, you got a professional meeting, and they're invited to a hotel room or one of the offices at his offices.
You mentioned actresses, but is like when they're young, generally,
yes,
right?
generally
when
young.
they've like
not
successful.
established actresses.
Right.
So usually, people.
It's very similar to Bill Cosby.
Yeah, people trying to get a
Nick
break.
Koo actually just said that. I didn't even make that connection. But
wow,
totally.
yeah.
Like, he would meet up with young actresses to give them advice.
I don't know what Cosby was.
I think it's even worse than Cosby was worse because he was seen as such a positive figure, if that makes sense. Whereas this guy's just some big wig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
this one's probably worse because it's a lot more people.
Yeah.
They both suck.
I'm sure someone's thinking, are you just saying that because he was black?
No,
I don't think so.
he had a show like teaching kids not to do drugs and stuff. Cosby was a lot more positive of a character.
Yeah, I'll bet that.
True. So he would arrange these meetings with these young women, like whether it's disguised as a script reading or some sort of interview. So at a lot of the time it was at this hotel or at his own home or at even at the office, and then eventually, whether it began like that or eventually it would end up alone with one of these girls. And so at the office, it's said that they had these, I can't remember what they called them, but these people would be there, but they'd just be there so that they could leave and then leave them alone together.
Right, okay.
So they would be meeting, say, at the hotel, and then they would talk for a while, and then Harvey would go to the bathroom and come back naked or in a bathrobe.
Far out.
Wow.
And then another similar thread was he would try to start massaging them or ask them to give him a massage, and then it would snowball from there. So, and
he's a pretty physically imposing guy. Eh?
Absolutely,
that would be very I can't imagine.
Very physically imposing, and also just he's an influential person.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it, especially like a young actress, young impressionable person who's just looking to get a break and get a start. So then the reports all say that they say no, like even for hours and hours they say no when they try and leave, or one would like literally say they're running away from him while he's naked and chasing them around the room, or they say no and then he'll he forced oral sex upon them, whether it's him performing it or them performing it, groping, and then even penetrative sex is some of the allegations.
Jeez.
So the investigation had no shortage of women coming forward to report these things.
But there's no criminal charges, hey?
Not yet. So there was one, this lady called Ambra Batilana. They met at his office, and where he kept commenting on her breasts and eventually grabbed her breasts and put his hand up her skirt, and then she left and then went straight to the police, which a lot of the women didn't do or wouldn't do because
because they want a job.
It's scary, and he's a influential man and they want to impress him and have future careers. But she went to the police and then reported them, and then she got a wire and then met up with him again, and then he had a go at her again, and then she left. But the
when was that?
Years and years ago. Wow. 20-something.
I mean, like you mentioned that he's paid off a lot of women.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's like a settlement?
Yeah,
he's given the money like on the side to not say anything.
No, he's settled with a lot of women as well.
Right.
But he says, they're not. That's not an admission of guilt.
Yeah, that's
his
part
his
of the
line
settlement.
is, "I love keeping the peace."
Yeah, the main kind of Twitter person, Rose McGowan, settled with him in the late 90s.
Mm. So, but this lady, she went to the police, and then a lot of stuff came up from her past about how she'd accused someone previously, and then she was involved with some allegedly dodgy stuff back in Italy, and then the district attorney laid no charges in the end, and she got a payment and settled. So there's lots of women who have come out in the article, but then there's a lot also that are anonymous, and a lot that were not able to speak because of the settlements.
So the ones hasn't stopped Rose McGowan.
Yeah.
So the ones who came out haven't had a settlement and could press charges?
I guess so. I don't know.
Right. Because there was a statute of limitations issue with Bill Cosby, so a lot of the people who accused him weren't actually able to press criminal charges.
Yeah.
Because it's like, everyone's alone until, like, it seems like the way this goes is you need some sort of critical mass before anything actually happens.
Yeah.
So, like, Bill Cosby, it was like, Hannibal Buress made a joke. And then people started looking into it because they were, like, attacking him or whatever.
Yeah.
And going, oh, crap, he actually is, like... Once there was a little bit of, like, momentum, then other people felt safe to come forward. I can imagine when you're the only person and you don't know anyone else who's been...
Totally.
abused. Like, you'd have no, like, leverage to do anything.
Yeah. And you wouldn't know who was in on it either.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crazy that there is a statute of limitations. But that did come up with Bill Cosby, right?
I'm not sure about Bill.
Isn't the only thing that doesn't murder? Doesn't everything else have a statute of limitations?
I don't know.
Yeah, but that is also part of the crazy thing is that, like, allegedly so many people have experienced it, but also so many people were aware of it.
Had to be. If you were like, there's a group of people who leave parties to leave Harvey Weinstein alone. And
so the people involved implicit, but also, like, the company itself apparently has a toxic atmosphere when it comes to that sort of thing.
Well, it's like he started in the 80s. Like, it had to have bred.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just, like, ignore something like that. You either leave the company or you kind of become... Is complicit the word?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I assume back then, though, that was pretty normal. There's so many, like, sitcoms where, like... Oh, like Big Bang Theory, for example, right? She's, like, it's a terrible show, but she's an actress. And, like, it always comes up that, like... They'll make jokes about how another actress has gotten the job instead of her because they're sleeping with a producer.
Yeah.
And I guess the way it's framed is always like, oh, that girl is, for lack of a better word, a slut. Yeah. And the way it's framed is like, oh, they're sleeping with the producer to get ahead.
Yeah, it's her idea. She's planned it out to try and get ahead.
But it's a pretty normal idea that young actresses have to sleep with someone in order to get their first jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's ingrained into the jokes. It's like...
And that's part of what, so Harvey's apparently been working on it, and he has this lady who's coaching him, and she says, well, Harvey's like a dinosaur trying to come up in a new age. And it's also part of his statement, because he put out quite an extensive statement about it, which is a bit, I don't know, it's really...
Yeah. Nick said he's fled to Europe.
Yeah, so he's since been fired from the company.
Yeah.
His brother would have known all this stuff.
His brother too has been fired, hasn't he?
No, his brother's still there.
Bob?
He's running it, and there's, I don't know, TMZ, a reputable news source, is claiming that Bob is behind it all to get his hands on the company.
Oh wow!
Well, you got to wonder what the breaking point was, right?
Yeah, this is all horrible, but it all sounds like it was very well known.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
like Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow came out saying that they experienced this sort of thing when they were young actors, which was how long ago was that? Maybe 20 years ago?
Yeah, 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. So and then Jolie's saying that Paltrow was saying that she told Brad Pitt, who was her boyfriend then, and he confronted Weinstein. So Brad Pitt knew about it, and that's like one of the most powerful actors in Hollywood, right?
Mm.
And then, but then Harvey called them back and like berated her for hours.
Really?
Before telling Brad. Which is crazy.
Yeah, and one of the things Rose McGowan said between when she was telling people to F off, like Ben Affleck, was actually interesting, was when she talked about how the world's moving on from the bro culture of guys just kind of dominating things, and Hollywood hasn't, and it's just needs to change, because it's all like the way Entourage is. You've seen Entourage, right?
Yeah.
How it's very male centric and very, I don't know what the word is. Sexist isn't the right word, but male
Misogynist.
dominated.
But are they poking fun at it, or?
Yeah.
Because they have a character that pokes fun of Weinstein. Did you guys see that? Did. I can't remember what he's called, but
Herman.
Probably.
He's like
Weinstein
he's like a big producer guy who like
but
intimidates
it's like fun
people
in the show. They don't treat it as a bad thing.
Right. Okay.
They say like that's just Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that seems to be the way everyone's treated it though for like 40 years,
which is a shame.
Mm-hmm. And Ben Affleck tweeted about it as well. He's like, it's horrible. And then Rose McGowan, who is another lady with allegations against Harvey, she tweeted back at him saying that, how can you say this? You knew this years ago, which Ben hasn't replied to.
Also, they came out that he groped a MTV
host.
Yeah.
On camera. There's actual video footage.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And his brother's been accused of that.
Well, that's what Rose was telling me.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Was like because Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are in so many Weinstein projects.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
if
they didn't know, they're dumb.
Oh, what's that movie called? The one with Robin Williams and those two.
Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
I hope not.
That's where it all started.
Oh, damn.
That was him. That was one of his first big ones.
I don't want to taint movies that I like.
And Angelina Jolie said after
There's
that.
There's going to be heaps of movies that you like, the amount that he makes.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction, he put that out.
I don't like that movie that much.
Oh, jeez. Anyway.
I'm a Reservoir Dogs guy.
So she said, well, she didn't work with him after that, and she doesn't even like watching Miramax movies either.
Because you kind of like know now, every single time you watch one of those movies, you know that there's probably an actress in that movie who would have been like experienced this kind of thing. It sounds like the frequency he was doing it with. There's a really good chance you're looking at a woman who was like harassed by him, or if not worse.
Yeah, but where it kind of even broadened was when the Terry Crews stuff came out.
Yeah,
right? Because at the beginning it kind of seemed like a kind of female movement that everyone was coming out with their stories, and then Terry Crews, like the buffest dude on the internet, like comes out that he was groped by some big executive, and it was like super disturbing for him. I can't remember the exact details of the story.
No, he said he was at like an industry party, and some industry big executive came and groped him, and like just looking in his eyes, his wife was standing right next to him, and then just.
And because they were at some function, he said it wouldn't look good if he'd beaten the crap out of him.
Yes.
He said the headline would be big black dude beats Hollywood guy.
Yeah, crazy.
Was that just an extension of like, if you're in some sort of minority or group that has less power, then you're like more vulnerable to this kind of thing?
I think it is all power. So this guy has the power to make your career, and he also has power to destroy your career.
And that's what Terry Crews said. Like, he asked himself the question. He's like, "Do I want to work again?"
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's insane and he has done it so many times. Like
the speed with which people have come forth as well is kind of like, because we're talking years down the line, but obviously it's like still affecting them.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's just like bursting out like a dam.
Julian, everyone's angry that you're not talking. What's your opinion on this?
I'm sorry.
He's got a controller in his hand for some reason.
No, I think it's a pretty big topic, and not so much. Well, yes, definitely in the media industry, but I think it happens a lot more in a lot more places than we actually realize or that we know of.
If you go into the hashtag, like, it is crazy how many stories there actually are.
Yeah, and I do think society and governments and authorities do need to come up with something in place to give people a place to actually have their voice heard, so that they aren't committing career suicide by speaking out against specific people or anything like that. They'll actually have a safe place to actually voice their opinion and experiences and things like that. Yeah,
it's just so hard when one person has so much power.
Yeah.
But then there's also that like pushback in the general, like, because there's a general culture shift happening which is allowing this stuff to be addressed. But there's also the pushback, like, oh, feminists are like man haters and all this stuff. It's like, I don't know, like the pushback feels like it's way too soon.
Yeah, that's
we are nowhere near the point where we've gone too far.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the awesome things about this is I haven't seen very many critics of it. Have you? There's always the internet trolls who just go, she was asking for it, like things like that,
Right.
like really dumb things. But I feel like it's all been like, no, this is terrible. There doesn't seem to be anyone on the wrong side of this.
There might be the avenues that we look at though. Like might just be the media that we.
And there is like, because a lot of these girls, like, they didn't like push him over and kick him and run away. Like, they were confused.
That's always the thing that people say though.
I
It's
know,
like,
they,
why didn't they fight back? Why didn't they report it to the police straight away? All that stuff. It's just like you
It's
would
not
not
that
do that
simple.
in that
It's in the
situation.
industry. You constantly need breaks. Like, even when you make one movie, you're not going to be good after that. Like, that's what people think. But yeah, that's true for like 1 in a million kind of actors. But for everyone else, they got to work for every job.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even in this situation, people might not necessarily be thinking about their career, but I think it's traumatic enough for somebody to just not say
and then
anything.
you're known as the guy who got touched or whatever.
Yeah. So generally, people that are treated or mistreated in that way, people wouldn't say anything.
and it can be so confusing and hard. You can think, I don't know, like, is this just how it is? Like, they're young, they've never experienced anything like this before.
Yeah.
It's just, it sucks. It's
But
really hard.
I feel like there would be an added pressure once these people do make it in Hollywood or in film, that now they're known as a public figure. So to speak out at that point is even, I think it's an added layer of pressure, or they don't want to be seen in that light. So it is, so I say thumbs up to the people that are speaking out about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And, yeah, I think it also empowers the layman on the street to actually speak out against these sort of things.
Do you think, okay, hypothetical situation, you know someone who has got someone like kidnapped in their basement, and you know that like the person is in the basement like right now, and you don't say anything, are you committing a crime?
I would
Yes.
I would say yes. However, I do think that people go through their natural whether it's fight, flight, or freeze, and people respond in that way. That's why some people will not say anything. Some people will naturally fight it, and then some people will just...
No, but like you're not the one who's having something done to you. You're aware of something happening. I'm saying you know someone who's got someone in their basement.
I think you are absolutely...
Is that legal? No, like from a legal point of view, are you legally committing a crime? Because I feel like everyone who knows,
if you're part of some sort of investigation,
should they be like held responsible?
I don't think it could be a law just because of like how hard it would be to prove something like that. But I think most people would say that it's wrong.
Yeah, like
Absolutely,
it's sort of
yeah.
like a natural moral thing. Because it's like, because I'm thinking about like how many people
Mm.
would have known this, and if there was some sort of like thing where it's like you are responsible if you allow a crime to continue and you don't say anything. It's not like, because he's
if they
still doing it.
You're not helping. Yeah.
After the 10th time, you're like, you know he's going to do it again.
Yeah. Well, if they were part of an investigation, the police asked them and then they lied, that's a...
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy. Very crazy.
It's a very sad story, but it kind of has had a positive out of it in that
Yeah.
it seems like you're not getting shamed to come out and tell your story.
But I think that the story is positive, that he's been fired and...
We're at the point
The
of it
women
where
have
like
come-
the house of cards is falling.
Yes.
It's just taken a very long time to build it up.
All the things that have happened are terrible, but from here, like, this is good news.
And
Well-
hopefully it's good for the victims.
Yes.
Because they get some sort of retribution watching him, like, he's gotten fired, his wife's left him. Like, I mean, there should be some repercussions, and there obviously is now, because that's him now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least people know what he is. What they've always known him to be.
Yeah.
Because I imagine it'd be like, it'd really suck if you're an actor and you knew he did that to you and you're listening to all of those Oscar speeches thanking him.
Yeah.
Like every single time.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
That's a heavy topic. We're going to go into a very random topic from this one.